This week on the Orange Box podcast, we talk about my experience so far with the Switch 2, the Xbox Showcase, Summer Game Fest, and more. All of this tonight, but first, on to that beautiful Bean intro. Welcome to the place where PC and console gaming talk combine. This is the Orange Box Podcast, episode 88. I am your host, the man who requires you pay $80 to use his C button, Nathan, also known as the Frozen Gamer 87. And joining me, as always, the man who keeps getting gommaged, Justin, better known as I'm Zeracon. How you doing today? How's your week been?
Wow. Quite a few things have happened this past week. So first off, I went ahead and finally dissected my old MacBook just to figure out exactly what parts I needed, and unfortunately, it doesn't say exactly what Intel processor it's using, so I had to just take a gamble, and fortunately I saw there was an auction for a MacBook that was right around the final hours essentially, and so I got in. I was able to get it for about $40, which is much less than initially I thought I was gonna have to pay for.
Nice.
So that should be coming in Friday. So I'll try to do data recovery, install everything on there, and then hopefully I can get everything up and running. But we'll definitely have to see when that happens. So also, I guess in a similar vein, my mother, she's well. Of course, Windows 11 is going to be reaching its end of life later this year in October. And
Windows 10, you mean?
I'm sorry, yeah, Windows 10. She was very hesitant to switch over just because A, it's new, and then B, as much as I dislike AI, she hates it even more than I do. And so because of the fact that it's Copilot and stuff like that, she's just like, no, I don't want that on my computer. So I said, I said, if you would like to, you could try maybe using some Linux. And so I initially I said, for your use case scenario, like you don't do a whole lot that requires, special programs or something like that. So you should be fine just, going on the web, using a word processor, documents and stuff like that. Like I've got stuff you can use. So I had her test a couple different distros and then found one that she felt comfortable with. And I said, all right, cool. So I went ahead and installed that on her laptop. And so she's been using that for about a week, I'd say. And, she's enjoying the process so far. But she says, like, if anything happens, I need you to be available at any moment. So it's like, yeah, that's fine. Just send me a message if you need anything. So that went well, at least. I finally went back and finished reading Paralandra, and it definitely was good. I was skeptical at first when my friend told me about it being better than the first book, but after finishing it, I said, yeah, I understand what you meant now. I definitely enjoyed it. I think just because of some of the themes and things it related to, I just enjoyed it a whole lot more than the first book. Not that I didn't enjoy the first book, but this one I definitely enjoyed more. Earlier today or at work, we had a company party going on, and unfortunately, because of my department, even though most of the company gets off early on time to go to company events, we don't necessarily get to do that. And because of that, just to allow everyone else a chance to go out there, I said I'll stay on the late crew and just take care of anything else that needs to come in. So I was handling everything with that today, and I was trying to actually get home early enough because I had a package that was going to be delivered, which kind of ties into the next thing that I was going to say, which is, while people were scrambling last Thursday to get a Switch 2, I was scrambling on websites to pick up this. It is, well, the blur is here, but it's
Is that a 9070 XT?
no,
or...
it's not a 9070. It's a
9060.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought you were talking about not getting a 9060, or did I misunderstand?
Well, I said I wasn't going to, but partially because of the fact that I feel like I could squeeze some more performance out of my PC because if I, don't have an 8 gig VRAM bottleneck essentially in getting the 16 gig. I was like, it's I was like, I don't wanna, but maybe I could. And then I was like, I was also gonna say, if I don't see anything that's in stock at MSRP, like I'm not gonna spend, like even if it's just $20-$30, like for like a model with better cooling or overclock. I said I'll only get one if I get it at MSRP, and surprisingly, there were actually I didn't have a hard time finding one at MSRP. So I was like, I'll just go ahead and do it then. But the old, or at least the current GPU I'm using, I'll probably use that again as a pass-through GPU for the actual gaming PC. But I did definitely say to myself, this is definitely the last upgrade for this current PC, because this was really just intended to be a media PC, just for, copying over my Blu-rays and DVDs so I can have everything on a single drive on my network so I could just watch it from any device. But I'm like, now this is just turned into a gaming PC, and that wasn't the intention. so yeah, so that's the last upgrade for this PC. But yeah, that is everything that happened with me this week.
I almost thought you were going to say that you decided to get a Switch 2, and I was just going to be... But, yeah. I'm sure if you had, you would have told me anyway.
Oh, yeah, I would have told you that.
But yeah, it's that's less surprising to me. Yeah. Well, let's see here. My week... I'm trying to think of what stuff has happened. I mean, obviously... I'll talk more about the Switch 2 in general, but so, I wasn't sure, of course, Thursday how things were going to look as far as getting the Switch 2. And I, took my dogs for the walk in the morning. Of course, I was working from home that day because the Switch 2 would be arriving. And sure enough, I get a notification as I am, basically a couple minutes away from my house walking back, from walking the dogs. It's going to be delivered at 6:27 a.m. And I realized it's because it wasn't actually being delivered from the headquarters. It was shipped to the store, and then they were delivering it from the store. And the store is 5 minutes from my house. So, but yeah, I guess they did that for everybody who had pre-ordered in the area. They just had somebody go out and deliver all these consoles around the area. And when I got it in the bag, I mean, like, okay, so the guy comes up, I get my dogs inside. Because he's starting to drive down the street right as I'm walking up to my house. Get the dogs inside. He starts pulling into the driveway. I just meet him out there, and he pulls out the 2 bags that the stuff is in, and he leaves, and I take the bags in my room, and I don't even open them right away because I need to finish getting ready for work, and so then I go back a few minutes later, and I check the bags, and in addition to the Switch 2 in one bag and the Pro Controller in the other bag, there's some cans of Pringles and bottles of Coca-Cola. And I'm like, did he accidentally give these to me? And so I'm taking the bags over to the entryway, seeing if, okay, maybe he's still close by. I can go tell him, hey, you delivered these to me by accident. And then he's already gone. I'm getting on the app, getting ready to contact customer service. And then I look in the bag and realize, oh, there's a card. And it says, I can't remember what the card actually says, but basically it is a gift that Walmart gave to anybody who pre-ordered. They got chips and a soda as gaming snacks. It's like, okay, hey, that's cool. I mean, I wasn't going to, have them. In fact, I think my kids have eaten the majority of the Pringles. I have had like a tiny bit. Since I'm like, I could take them or leave them. I like them, but I don't really, that's not usually my first choice for snacks. Like, I never buy them. And anyway, so, it got delivered very early. Of course, I had to work, so all I really did was just kind of have it doing stuff in the background, getting Mario Kart World downloaded and getting the stuff from my OLED Switch transferred to the Switch 2, and the stuff from the original Switch transferred to the Switch OLED, and then trying to get some things set up on the original Switch for my kids, so getting rid of games on there that didn't need to be on there, and doing the same on the OLED for my wife so that she could use it without having a bunch of bloat on there, extra stuff she's never going to play. So something that happened, which was, oh no, kind of situation, which ultimately has worked out okay. I'll just say that ahead of time. So, the thing with Animal Crossing on Switch, it is one island per device, and then any additional users who create Animal Crossing characters, they'll just go to that same island that's already been created on the device. So on the original Switch, my wife, of course, has put hundreds, potentially 1,000 hours into Animal Crossing. And before I had transferred her stuff over, but the thing is that Animal Crossing also doesn't have cloud saves. You have to manually transfer from the game to another console if you want to transfer your island. And I had forgotten about this because the last time I had to do this was back when I got my Switch OLED. And so it's been a long time since I've had to do that. And so I did not realize I needed to transfer stuff. And there is a way to back up your island to where if the Switch gets lost or damaged, or if you transfer to a new Switch, you can recover your island from that standpoint. Or Nintendo can actually do it if you call them and get them to do it. The problem is we hadn't set up that backup because we didn't realize that we needed to. And I had forgotten about the whole cloud save thing. So, my wife did not want my kids to be messing with her island because she put a lot of time into it. She didn't want them to, destroy all the hard work that she put in all that time. And so we had to delete the island, delete the save data on that Switch in order for them to create their own new island. Unfortunately, I didn't realize until after I had done that there was no backup. There was no cloud version. I called Nintendo, see if they had a backup. They didn't. We found out how to do the backup, and needless to say, it's been done. It's been set up automatically to do that now. So yeah, my wife lost her island.
Oh
no. I was able to, I told her as I was realizing it because, of course, she wanted me to not have her island on that Switch anymore because she didn't want the kids messing with it. But, when I realized, I think your island may be gone, and she's like getting ready to take the dogs for a walk, and I think she was just, kind of in shock initially, which is understandable. And it's like, I put all the effort in I could to try and get this resolved because I thought there has to be a way to fix this. And I looked up and it looks like there's a way to fix it, but the problem was that we hadn't set up the backup because neither of us knew we needed to. And so, she lost it all. The plus side is that she was at a point where basically all she was really doing was trying to earn some badges, which is just doing repeated things over and over and over. I think she was working on, she had to catch a total of 5,000 fish or something in order to get a certain badge. And she technically had stuff to do, but it was very grindy at this point because she had, fully upgraded her house. She had everything in the museum. She had, cataloged everything, so on and so forth. So now she's at a point where she just restarted. And once I mean, she had some time to process. She saw that I was working hard trying to get it back for her, that I was doing everything I could, and that unfortunately it just wasn't possible. And so, thankfully I have a wonderful wife and she's not holding it against me. And she said that now she's actually having a good time with it because even though she doesn't have the ability to do all the same things initially that she had in her other game, she also has a lot more options of stuff to do. And considering how much she loves playing Animal Crossing, it ends up working out well. Plus, she gets to do it all on the OLED screen, which is way nicer than the original Switch screen. I mean, that's a huge upgrade. Going from the original 2017 model of the Switch with, the huge bezels on it to the larger, brighter, better looking screen of the Switch OLED. Massive upgrade. She's able to fully enjoy it, and she's just absorbed in the game again. So, obviously, I wasn't happy with myself that I made that mistake, and we've set it up now to where she has the backup in case there's ever a situation in the future where she has to worry about it, so she won't lose her data again. But yeah, that was not good from that standpoint. Otherwise, I think the only thing really of note is that there's sort of some progress on the job thing. Basically, the paperwork has been put in to corporate HR to, and basically the ball's is rolling in that direction between my boss and his boss, getting the stuff to corporate HR. It's just a matter of it getting from them to the official offer to me. I have no idea what kind of pay increase is going to come with it or anything like that. So it's still just kind of up in the air at the moment. As far as I'm concerned, it's still not official until I've signed the paperwork. And I haven't even gotten the paperwork, so I'm just, at this point, I'm just going to wait. I mean, it's like, I don't know, it could be this week, could be next week. Sometimes these things just don't move. Well, obviously, things don't always move as quickly as they should. I mean, it's already been, 2 or 3 weeks now, and so it is what it is. I'm just waiting at this point, but yeah, I think that's it as far as that stuff goes. Nothing really unusual. Oh, one thing that I do want to just quickly mention. I had mentioned this YouTube channel / website before for Aaron and Claire, which is like a Korean couple, and they do all sorts of Asian recipes primarily, where I got like the recipe for the rice omelet and various other things like that. I decided to try the recipe for beef and broccoli this week, like this that you get in a Chinese restaurant, and oh man, that was honestly the best beef and broccoli I've ever had.
Oh wow.
And even with the fact that I probably used a fattier cut of meat than I should have, but it was mostly just because it was a lot cheaper. And I think that I could use that fattier cut and still make it work better if I just use less oil and stuff than the recipe called for. But either way, it was just super good. It was so good, and I'll definitely make it again. And I'm going to try out more and more of his recipes because there has not been a bad one so far. So yeah.
Oh man, that sounds very good. And how simple was it for you to make? I mean, was it something that was?
I mean, it was pretty simple. I had the only ingredient I didn't have, I think, was the beef itself. I had everything else already on hand. So it was all, it was pretty simple. I mean, it was a little bit time consuming because it was my first time making it, but it's just because I'm, very meticulous when it comes to new recipes, making sure, okay, do all these things. And once I've done it a few times, it'll, go a lot faster, but either way, it worked really well.
Yeah, that sounds definitely sounds good. And I'll have to look that up later. In fact, let me just quickly make a note here just to look that up. And yeah, I'm sorry that things were messed up with the backup. But I mean, I'm glad that your wife was understanding, and also the fact that she is appreciating the fact that she can do things over again. Like you said, have different options for what she wants to do as well. But it is odd to me that Animal Crossing wouldn't have cloud backups.
It's just a
seems
Nintendo
unusual.
thing. I mean, it's like, seriously, Nintendo, the way they do things is so convoluted sometimes, and it's just like, why? I mean, I thought that back when we first found out about what they were doing with it. I just had completely forgotten that that's how they did it until it came up. So, yeah. All right, anyway, what have you been playing this week?
So I've been playing a little bit more of some Satisfactory with friends. While they were trying to get a new station set up, and eventually we got a train set up so that way, for one thing, we can get materials transported around the island that we're on. I essentially was just doing a whole lot of exploration. First off, I was trying to get one of the achievements for the game, which was essentially reach the highest point on the map, or essentially reach the highest point you can actually get. So that partially requires like building a ladder up to heaven, essentially. And the funny thing is, the achievement for that is called "What a Thrill," which is a reference, of course, to
What a thrill.
Yep. And I think the funny.
Oh, with the island? Is it because of the ladder?
It's because
Climbing
of the ladder. Because
Yes!
of climbing up there.
Yes!
Yes.
Yes. Because that's when that song plays. What a thrill.
And I think also you could. I tried to find the highest point possible where we were at. I mean, I know it wasn't the highest point, like the highest point on the map, but I know that I feel like trying to climb up there, you could probably play through the entire song before you could actually get to the actual peak.
Yeah.
which is just hilarious. And I mean, it's something I've been like working on over the process of weeks, just slowly getting the materials, slowly going back and forth to build the ladder, keep going back and forth, get more materials, build the ladder some more, climb up and stuff. And it took a long while, but you know, it was very satisfying to finally get done. But sort of because of that, once I reached the top of the ladder, I jumped off and just glided across the entire map, and just to like explore new areas. And part of that was a good thing because I got to see different areas and see, okay, here are certain drop pods where we can get materials or get other types of resources later on. Bad news, those were areas where I wasn't well equipped to explore. So there was stuff like a whole lot of radiation, and I was stupid enough to think, okay, maybe if I mine some of this uranium, I can run away and I'll be fine. I was stupid because of the fact that just because you carve off a rock of uranium doesn't mean it stops being radioactive in your belt. So I had to discard it because I was slowly dying of radiation poisoning. So I got rid of that, and then also there were just creatures there that were a whole lot more powerful than the ones we normally handle, and even the ones that we don't normally handle. Even though they're bad, they're nowhere near as that bad as them. So I definitely had to like run away multiple times to try to get back to base so I wouldn't die and drop all the items that I had just picked up, especially rare items. And so I said I just need to find my way home right now. So that was enough exploration for one day eventually. But then, like I said, we got back. We built our train so that way we can transport things around, and definitely also makes traversing the island a whole lot easier. So I'm definitely grateful for that. But yeah, that's pretty much everything we did in that session. But primarily, though, I've been playing more Expedition 33, and wow. So I finished Act 2. Okay, first thing I'll say is I got past the boss that I mentioned before last week, and when I played against him again, I unintentionally had a party I wasn't equipped, or at least I didn't have one to set to fight him, because I was originally trying to just get, for example, some more Neveron feet for Monoko. And so I was like, all right, that's cool and stuff. I'll just have him in there. And I thought I had switched the party back to the party I wanted, and I didn't realize I didn't do that. So I went in to fight him. I said, oh no, this isn't the right group I needed. But surprisingly, I actually managed to beat him. Now, I mean, I think I think the first group was wiped out, but fortunately, I had whittled his health down enough in the second phase that I was able to take care of him with the last phase, and I was done. I was like, okay, that's great, awesome. So then I went to fight the Paintress. Got through the first phase without too much difficulties. Second phase, I was not. The problem was the cinematics kept throwing me off. So I was like, am I supposed to be dodging right now? Is I supposed to be parrying right now? I was like, okay, I was able to learn most of the stuff. But once she started opening reality and stuff started flying out, I just said, oh gosh, I started panicking and just started dodging. And unfortunately, that just wiped me out completely.
Yeah.
And I had to do it all over again. But the second time, I said, okay, I'm not going to freak out. I'm going to, try to use, some judgment, some proper judgment, and I was able to beat her that time. And then, of course, things happened with the story, and I was like, all right, cool, it's all over and stuff. Yay! Then Act 3 happens, and I'm going, what is this game, even? And I'm just like, the game messes with my mind in the prologue. The game messes with my mind at Act 1. The game messes with my mind again. Oh, but it's just so good, though. And I mean, I can, of course, finish the game now, but right now I don't want to yet. I want to get through a lot more of the side content. For example, I've been going through trying to max out all the relationship levels with the party members, which I have completed. And I think just going through all that, it's really interesting how well the characters are developed during those moments, and especially seeing how some of them, how their backstories are actually interwoven, which I thought was really interesting. The fact that certain things you might not think about, it's like, oh, that's interesting that this character and this character, actually their paths cross in this way or that. It was really interesting, and of course, with stuff that I won't say, which you learn in Act 3, it just makes things. It just makes their character development so much better. I'm just like, wow, this has been an incredible story so far. And I'll also say that, as a whole, I wasn't certain how things were gonna go, but just so far right now. Now I don't know how it ends with. Well, actually, I'm gonna say, with the exception of one character so far. With the exception of one character, there isn't any. With the exception of that one character, there hasn't been anyone that I have disliked, I will say, as far as as a character. Now, I might not necessarily agree with characters, with how they stand, but I can at least understand their reasoning and their motives for doing certain things. But I don't necessarily dislike them. Like, I will say that the one character, of course, who you fight, who I mentioned before, who I fought before the Paintress, I thought, I was like, yeah, I dislike you. But then when you realize stuff, and I'm just like, okay, maybe I disagree with you, but I don't dislike you now. Like, that's essentially where I am right now. Of course, there are other story things which I just can't say because there would be spoiling things. But I'm just like, all right, so I know that this isn't that, but that isn't this, and it's just like, okay, yeah. But but I think the best thing has just been the oh gosh, I can't remember what the Pictos is called, but essentially having that cap removed. It has just been, oh my goodness, I love that thing so much. Definitely allows Mael to shine, and before just seeing her constantly doing 9,999, wondering, okay, well, how much could she actually be doing? And then seeing, like, oh, okay. And of course, people are able to get her up to the millions, and right now I'm just doing six digits, but at least she's making progress in that area. I mean, of course, the party is as a whole is making progress, but yeah, it's just going so well, and I really feel like I just want to take my time with the rest of the content here because I don't want it to necessarily end yet, and I'm just like, yeah, I'll finish the game, but I just want to enjoy what I have so far. So going to like go to the optional bosses, and I actually also went back and did Frozen Hearts. I took care of that area as well. I also did a couple other areas, and also I did eventually go back. I didn't realize that I had missed it, but I went back and did the volleyball at Gestural Beach, and now I realize what you meant, and I'm just like, yeah, this isn't a good time, is it?
Well, there is that mod that makes it super easy.
Well, I was going to do that. I said I really feel like I wanted to do it, but I was like, I feel like I've got too much pride right now to not do it. So I mean, like, it took
Fair
me
enough.
about half an hour, but I got it eventually. And I was like, all right,
Okay.
cool, it's done. I don't want to talk to you anymore now. But yeah, but it's just been I've been having so much fun as always with this game, and I really feel like right now I might go ahead and start New Game Plus once I'm finished with it. But yeah, that is everything that I have to say.
Now, real quick, just because I don't recognize the weapon, what weapon is Verso using in this footage?
This one is the I can't remember. I think it's called Dream something. Essentially, it's based upon counters. So you can gain, I think, more AP upon countering, upon parrying, and dealing more damage with counter attacks.
Okay. Yeah, obviously, I know exactly what you mean with everything since I've finished the game, but I think it's definitely a good idea to try and do all the stuff before you go to the end. I just think that will be a better way to do things. That's all I'm gonna say. I mean, because obviously I finished it before I finished everything else, and I mean, it was harder for me to get back into it than it would have been if I had just continued working on everything until I was done with all the side stuff and then went and finished the final area. Of course, if you do all the side stuff first, then the final area, it's going to be really, really easy to get through. I mean, as it is where you're at level-wise, you probably could breeze through it pretty easily, I think. If memory serves. It's been a little while since, obviously, I finished the story, so. But yeah, good stuff, man. Definitely curious to hear the rest of your journey with this and however long it takes, and then we'll have to talk completely about the story, even if it's off stream, off the podcast. But yeah. All right. Oh yeah, I do want to ask real quick. Do you think you basically have an understanding of the gist of what's been going on?
I think so. Like I was slightly confused at first, right before the end of Act 2, when when Verso's reading that letter, and I was partially confused. But then after the beginning of Act 3, I realized, okay, I see what's going on now. And it explained that one thing that I was just very confused about. But yeah, I think I understand everything.
All right, cool. All right, so I got a bunch of stuff to talk about here. I think that maybe I'm gonna kind of go in a little bit of a weird order here. So all right, first of all, I'll just get it out of the way. Played some more Minecraft Dungeons with the kids. Unfortunately, we were having some controller issues just because one problem with using controllers that are not native to the system, particularly using like the Wii U Pro controller, and then having some that are not charged properly. We just had some connection issues, and that ended up causing some issues. And so we weren't actually able to finish the level. And of course, then the game ended up freezing on us, which that's the first time it's done it. But yeah, the game froze on us a little bit after we got the Eye of Ender in the level we were in. And then we weren't actually able to finish the level, which was annoying. But I think part of it was just because we kept having controller connection issues, and then the game just froze, and we decided we were going to be done with it. So that's all I really have to say about that. So yeah, I guess I'll just go straight into it. Dark Souls 2. All right, so I finished the game completely. At least as far as I'm concerned, apart from if I ever decide to do New Game Plus or whatever. Actually, let me back up slightly. So I don't have footage for a lot of the stuff I did, mostly because, once again, the Steam Deck is still having issues with recording. I did end up getting it working to record stuff through OBS, connecting my Steam Deck to OBS and everything. It turns out that the issues I was having with my capture card may have been something that I could have solved a long time ago that I just, for some reason, didn't even think to check. So I had updated the software for the Elgato capture card, but I had never updated the firmware for it. And I think that was the solution I needed all along to fix my problems that I had been having with it. Because after I did that, my Steam Deck was coming through just fine. I was able to both play and record the footage from my Steam Deck, because it's just a little bit easier to play that way than it is trying to play on my desktop or on my laptop, mostly because of the fact that I'm used to having the back buttons, and like I'm very dependent on them. You know, like I use one specifically for sprinting, I use the other one for using Estus flasks and all that. And yes, I can do it without, but it's better. I'm just much more comfortable doing it with, because I played it almost exclusively on the Steam Deck. And unfortunately, even though my Switch 2 Pro controller does have back buttons, currently it doesn't really work on PC. So I couldn't really take advantage of that. So, you know, last week I had been in the last DLC in the Crown of the Ivory King. And the thing that I had coming up was, okay, first I had to get this item that made it so that the invisible enemies I could see, which I was able to get. And then I went and fought the first boss that was invisible, which was Ava, the king's pet, and took him out. I think the first time I failed, and the second time I went in and it wasn't too hard. Note that I did go in with summons for all of these remaining boss fights, just because I wanted to. So I took care of that, and then eventually I got to that area that I talked about, the snowy wasteland thing. I can't remember the name of it for some reason. It's kind of I'm blanking on what it is, but essentially, so there's a bonfire that's in the Ivory King DLC area, and you get into a coffin, and then you slide down in it, and it takes you to this area that's separated. No bonfires in this whole area. It's just the bonfire before you get in the coffin. So when you get down to the area, there are actually 3 summons you can do at the very beginning of the level, which is great. I was like, okay, I'm taking advantage of that for sure. There's no way I'm not using these. I mean, it's like I might as well. And so the trek there, honestly, if I didn't have the summons with me, and if I wasn't taking my time with it a little bit more, if I was trying to move like more while the snowstorm was going, then I would have had a lot more issues with it. But because I had the summons with me, that certainly helped. And then like I knew that, okay, when the storm kicks up, if I'm still in the middle of it, then this ice horse thing is going to spawn and attack me. And so I was like mentally prepared for that. I knew this was coming. And you know, initially I talked about, okay, when I get to in front of the boss door on the other side of the map, then I would save my game, and then I would back up my save, and then I would just reload it if I had to, in order to be able to not have to retrek through the area. But of course, with summons, you can't save and quit unless you dismiss the summons. And since there are no summons by that door, I'm like, I'll just go in and do it. And I think it probably took 3 tries, maybe 4, but I was able to take down the bosses. I did the summons every time. It ultimately made it easier, and I think that honestly, as bad as it was, and maybe it was worse in the original version of Dark Souls 2, I think it was kind of overblown. I don't think it was nearly as bad, especially because of the fact that there are areas like the run back to the blue version of the Smelter Demon in the previous DLC was way more frustrating. I died so many more times going through that. I mean, I got to the point where even though there was like 20, 30 enemies in between the bonfire and the boss, I died to the point where I basically had none of them respawning when I finally got to the when I finally went and beat the boss. I think I had one left that was respawning and the rest of them were not. So yeah, but that ultimately really wasn't that bad. And of course, having the summons was helpful because it just distracted the bosses and everything, and I had a good enough idea of how to avoid them to where that wasn't that big of an issue. But then I went into the last boss of the DLC, which was the Burnt Ivory King. Now, this is basically you around the area leading up to him. You can find these 3 or 4, I can't remember which. It's either 3 or 4 of these special knights that they're locked up, and if you free them, then when you go into this fight, they'll come with you and they'll help you to fight, because basically when you go into this fight, there's like these mirrors around the arena, and various dark knights will come out, and they'll just keep respawning until the white knights go and they freeze the mirrors, because it's like a fire area. And so when they freeze the mirrors, then the enemies stop coming out, and then eventually the boss comes out. Now, initially I had tried going into this fight before I realized that there were multiple of these knights that could help. And so I just had one of them, because there's one there by default, and then you free the other ones, and then they come and help you. So initially I'd gone and I just had the one. I was not doing super hot. I didn't even get the boss to come out. It's just a bunch of these really obnoxious knights coming up, and like I can parry some of them, I can take down some of them, but overall they're just really obnoxious. So when I got all the knights, and then I could also do, I think, 2 summons. So basically I had, a nice big team to help me with dealing with all these really obnoxious knights. So they're drawing a lot of the aggro, they're taking out a lot of these guys in the meantime, and I'm waiting and then after a certain point the boss comes out, and I think it only took me 2, maybe 3 tries once I actually with the boss actually out, and between others drawing aggro and everything else, he wasn't too terribly hard. So at this point, basically the only boss I have left for the game is Aldia, the Scholar of Sin. And as far as I knew, I had done everything I needed to do. I found out, turns out, number 1, I did not actually need to complete the DLC in order to fight Aldia. So that's one thing. I was going to do it either way, so it wasn't really a big deal. The other thing is that there was something I was supposed to do beforehand that I didn't realize, and that was to get the Crown of Vendrick and his gear set, which you don't have to wear any of them, but you have to get Vendrick's crown from a previous area, the Shrine of Amana, and I didn't even realize it, because I think I had come across the door maybe, but the door didn't open if you were hollow, and I didn't know that at the time. And so once I found that out, it's like, okay, well, I'll go back to this area, go get the crown and stuff. I got it, and then you can go and visit King Vendrick in his dream area, where he's basically takes you back in time where he's still alive, and then if you have his crown plus the other crowns, then he gives you like a special blessing. I don't remember what the blessing is supposed to do, but it's something. So I'm thinking, okay, it looks like I'm probably good to go, because initially I tried going into the arena where Aldia is supposed to spawn, but he wasn't spawning. And like I looked it up, it seemed like, okay, I've done everything I'm supposed to do. You know, I did things in the right order. I killed Vendrick before I fought Nashandra, and then Aldia is supposed to appear in that same arena, but he wasn't appearing. And it turns out the reason why he wasn't appearing was because there's like these different spots where Aldia shows up earlier, and I had encountered him in all those spots, but you have to do that before you defeat Vendrick, so that right after you fight Nashandra, Aldia comes out. So it's just, you know, one after the other. So after messing around with this for quite a while, I ultimately realized the only way to do this is I'm going to have to use a bonfire ascetic. And so I had to use the bonfire ascetic in order to basically make it New Game Plus for those particular enemies. It made it so that the Throne Watchers, Nashandra, or the Throne Watcher and Defender and Nashandra respawned, because the same arena is where you fight both of them, and then you fight Aldia. So I had to do that. I had to go in and, like, of course, I had no idea how difficult it was going to be, because basically that's technically a 4-boss gauntlet, essentially, because you're doing the Throne Watcher and Defender, then you're doing Nashandra, and then you're doing Aldia, Scholar of Sin. And of course, New Game Plus, I didn't really know, okay, how much more difficult are they going to be? I went ahead and took advantage of the summons that were available, and went into the fight. Throne Watcher Defender, piece of cake fight, no problem. Had no real issues with that. And then I went into the fight with Nashandra, and it was actually much easier this time, in part because I found out, wish I had known this earlier, that the King's Crown, which is Vendrick's crown, not only does it prevent curse completely, which helps you in the fight with Nashandra because she can cause curse very easily. I mean, it's easy enough to stop it, but at the same time, it's still there. It's still annoying. But also, it prevents you from going hollow. So, I went into the fight with that, and I made it to Aldia after defeating the first two. And unfortunately, I died pretty quickly, but it was really just because if you get too close to him, a lot of times he'll have like basically a barrier of fire around him, like a pool of fire around the ground. And so you can't get too close to him, because if you get too close, then you burn up pretty quickly and you die. So then I went back in second time, and I was able to take him down without too much difficulty. And it was, of course, well, I guess I should say, by the time I was done with Nashandra, I was down to just one of the 3 summons. And then when I went into Aldia, I didn't have the other 2. I'm sorry. When I went into Aldia, I just had the 1. He died pretty quickly. And then from there, it was just like, okay, well, I guess there's not much of anything I can do about this. But since I died to Aldia, thankfully, when I went back to fight him again, I didn't have to go through the entire gauntlet again. I just had to fight Aldia, because that's one thing that I do appreciate about this game, is that, because of the fact that they are separate fights. Once you defeat one, it's not like the next one's the next phase. It's just a completely different boss fight, but it's still, they spawn right after. So, because I had already defeated them, already had their souls, then I didn't have to worry about refighting everything in order to get back to Aldia. So yeah, there's definitely more stuff I can do in Dark Souls 2 if I want to, and especially now that I actually have the stats to where I could utilize the Few Knight Greatsword, I kind of want to do New Game Plus. But I'm not entirely sure about when I would do that. And I think the main thing is that if I was going to do that, I would need to first check and see about what all I can get done before changing to New Game Plus, because I know that there's some stuff that's just not, you can't actually complete, you can't do it in New Game Plus, or you can't do it unless you do New Game Plus, or at least I think you might be able to do bonfire aesthetics for some bosses in order to get stuff that you need for certain NPC quests and that sort of thing. In which case it might be possible to do without New Game Plus, but regardless of any of that, I'm just not planning on doing it anytime soon. I think I will eventually go for all the achievements because of that, but it's not something where I feel like an urgent need, especially because of the fact that I really just wanted to finish this before I started diving into games on the Switch 2. And even though I did get my Switch 2 before I actually finished this, I haven't really felt much need to go back to it, at least not right now. Like I said, it'll probably be an eventual thing because I did still enjoy it enough to where I wouldn't mind going back and trying to do some of that stuff, actually be able to take advantage of, you know, my new weapon, and maybe even see how quickly I can breeze through New Game Plus, you know, knowing where to go and everything else. But we'll just kind of play it by ear, see what happens on that front. But I'm going to go ahead and start talking a bit about the Switch 2. Because that's really the only other thing I've been playing. I mean, once I finished up Dark Souls 2, I basically have only been playing my Switch 2. And so, let's go ahead and show you this thing. So, a couple of initial things I want to say about it. So, of course, there it is. There's your Switch 2. In terms of the hardware itself, I like this thing. It's really cool. It's a lot heavier than the original Switch. It's bigger than both the Switch and the Switch OLED. I think it might actually be heavier than the Steam Deck. My kitchen scale is broken right now, so I need to get a replacement. I just haven't gotten around to it, but it was like 5 years old. Whenever I get that, I will actually weigh it out, or maybe I'll just look it up online and see what people say. But legitimately, like, this thing is dense. Like, you know, I mean, because it's you know, relatively thin. It's a little bit thicker than the regular Switch, but not drastically so. But like, this thing just feels like it's packed full. And of course, you know, with the Steam Deck, it has active cooling because it has an actual fan, which is why it's bulkier. This one is heavier, but everything's very compact because of the fact that it's using passive cooling instead. And yeah, like, I think that there's some things I really like about the hardware itself. The Joy-Cons are definitely bigger and better than the original ones, quite a bit. So, as a result, it is more comfortable to hold. It's still not like, it's not ideal. I'm still waiting for my Satisfy grip, which they're supposed to be emailing everybody to say, hey, this is when we're going to ship them, but they haven't done that yet, so I need to follow up with them again, see if there's any change on that front. But overall, like, it's still more comfortable to hold just because it's bigger. I gotta say, though, the magnetic thing, it's really cool. So of course, you know, you have the Switch thing on the back that you pull off. To attach them again, though, you just you don't have to press anything. You just clicks right in. It's in there very firmly. It doesn't feel like it's gonna come out or anything. You know, like I could put some force on it. I mean, I wouldn't put too much force on it because I wouldn't want to actually break it, and it might be more fragile if I really tried, but I'm not gonna try. And so basically, it's like when you press the button, then it like pushes out a little thing here. You can kind of see it up against my hair like that. So it pushes that out, and that's what basically pushes it so that it detaches from the magnetism there. So it's pretty neat. But yeah, I like that. You can actually, you know, pull off both at the same time, which was much more of a challenge with the original Switch. I mean, even when it's in the dock, you can pull off both at the same time if you want to. So that's pretty cool. I briefly messed with the Joy-Con mouse. I didn't really have any games I wanted to test it in. I mean, I guess I could like install Borderlands or something and see if it works there, because I know it works for some shooters, but I haven't. So I'm not sure exactly how much I want to test that out. I will say it's not as uncomfortable as I thought it would be for doing the mouse mode. And it does like when you switch it to mouse mode, while it's, at least when it's docked and everything, or just using it like in the regular Switch menu, it brings up a pointer, which is, it's like, okay, cool. I did try out using a regular mouse attached to it, and it turned on the mouse like it powered, the dock powered it, but it didn't do anything. So I'm not sure how much of that is just like, okay, certain mice work and others don't, versus a lot of them don't. I have no idea. I've only tried one mouse, just the one I use for my computer all the time. So there's that. The Switch 2 Pro controller, I really like this thing. So it's pretty much identical in terms of the size and shape to the original Pro controller. The sticks do feel a bit better. It's hard to explain exactly how they feel better, but they do feel better. I'm not a huge fan of them being like white sticks, kind of like it is with the original Steam Deck, where I've never really been a huge fan of that. I prefer the transparent gray that the original Pro controller is, but otherwise, I mean, I like the design. I like the way it looks. I like the the light gray / white top. I think that's kind of cool. Having the lights on top for telling you which player number you are is a little weird to get used to, but they did actually add a headphone jack to the bottom so that you can plug in headphones, which is nice. I haven't utilized them yet, but would definitely be useful to have from that standpoint. The D-pad is way better, because the one on the original Pro controller was a little on the deeper side, and so the travel distance was a little too far, and it just didn't work great. But on here, like, I tested it out earlier today with a 2D platformer, and it worked really well. Like, I'm really, really pleased with how good the D-pad is. I'm very, very happy with that. The back buttons, you can program those it's one game at a time, so like when you have the game open, you can just hold down the home button, and then you can program the two back buttons to do whatever it is you want them to do. I don't think you can do macros, at least not as of right now, but you can program them with single button functions. So like I did it in Xenoblade Chronicles X, and I use it for scrolling to the different attacks, which is normally left and right on the D-pad. So that's a lot better, because then I can, keep my fingers on the sticks to move around and all that, instead of having to scroll with the D-pad and stop moving my character. So pretty neat. I like this controller. I hope that it'll be supported on PC pretty soon, because I could definitely see myself using this as like my main controller on PC, just because of the back buttons. At least until they come out with a Steam one, because if they come out with an official Steam controller that's basically laid out like the Steam Deck, that's going to be my controller. That's going to be my PC controller, probably the one I use almost exclusively, because having multiple back buttons is a big deal, but even just having the two is very helpful. So, trying to think if there's anything else hardware-wise that I need to mention about it. Battery life seems pretty bad. Even in like 2D games, it seems like it's quite bad. I mean, it's kind of to be expected, because more powerful means it's gonna have less battery life, just like is the case with the Steam Deck. Oh yeah, the screen. So the screen is actually nice. I like the screen quite a bit. It's still not as good as the OLED. It's nowhere near as bright, but the HDR does help a lot, and it still is a good screen. I do like it, and I played my games about half and half between handheld and docked mode, Docked, of course, for me is giving the best experience because of the fact that I can do it on my HDR OLED monitor. So then I get all the bells and whistles from that standpoint. Plus, with the games that support it, I'm also getting the higher resolution. So that's really, really helpful. And I think actually it's really only like games that don't yet have any sort of patch that seem to not quite take advantage of the higher resolution. The one thing that is weird is that even though it's in the list of different options for resolution, because you have 720p, 1080p, 1440p, and then 4K, even though when I'm connected to a 1440p monitor, it does not give me the option to choose 1440p. So it's like, okay. I mean, for the most part, it hasn't really been an issue. Most of the games that I've been playing have looked great anyway. So, I mean, yeah. Trying to think if there's anything else hardware-wise. Kickstand is solid. Really happy with that. But, I mean, it's pretty much the same. It's very similar to the one on the OLED, which was already great. And I don't do tabletop mode a whole lot. I did it a little bit earlier just because I didn't have, because I put all the cables attached to my my USB dock for my laptop, and I didn't want to change the cables back in order to plug it into my monitor so that I could actually have sound and everything. So I just did a tabletop mode and played with my Pro Controller when I was playing a game. But I think that's it hardware-wise. So let's start talking about games. I'm going to kind of go in reverse order, more so because I think some are more noteworthy than others. So, first of all, a game that I just started earlier today, after I had finished another game, is Guacamelee 2. So I've beaten Guacamelee several times. Let's see here. I beat the Gold Edition on Steam. Then I beat the Super Turbo Championship Edition on Wii U. And then I believe I beat the Super Turbo Championship Edition again on PC. And then I got it on Switch, but I did not finish it. I'd gotten sidetracked at one point, and every time I've tried coming back to it, I'm at like a point right near the end of the game where I'm trying to complete a bunch of side stuff in order to get all the different orbs, so that you can get the best ending. And in doing so, I also I'm at this point where I have to do combat challenges in order to get one of the orbs, and I'm not good at the combat. Like I have a tendency to get my combos broken and stuff, and it's like, oh, you have to get this many hits to get the gold medal, and I need the gold medal in order to get, this orb and everything else. And so, like, I just haven't gotten back to it. And of course, I'm, really rusty on the controls. So I just decided, okay, I've already beaten Guacamelee 1 a bunch of times. I mostly wanted to beat it again because I have it on the Switch, and also because of the fact that I really wanted to beat the final boss as Intenso Chicken One, because it's possible to do. I've seen someone do it, and it's just like, I want to do that so bad, but alas, I haven't done that. And so I decided to jump into 2, and I also have this physical cartridge that includes both games. So I decided to jump into 2 for a bit, and I haven't fully decided if I'm going to keep playing 2 right now, because I played 1 so many times, or if once I get comfortable enough with the controls, I'll go back to 1, finish that out, and then come back to 2 and go from there. Because the controls are very similar. There's just like some new abilities and that sort of thing, and some new gimmicks for stuff you got to deal with in the environment and all that. It's definitely harder so far, but also I'm quite rusty. So, but before I started playing that, I decided to finally boot up Oxenfree on the Switch, and all I have playing here is just the trailer for the game, because I didn't actually record any gameplay footage. I played it entirely in handheld mode, and it's just a game that I bought some years ago on discount, and I just never really got to it. So I really wanted to. It's one that it's been kind of like, okay, I need to try this game out one of these days because it's, you know, an indie game. It's a short game, should be pretty easy to get through, and so I just finally did, and I think it only took me like 5 hours to get through the game. It was pretty short, and it was interesting. Like the first 15 minutes, I was like, I don't know about this game. It seems like it's going to be very much like a artsy fartsy, you know, high schooler drama kind of thing. But then as it started getting, it's like, oh, there's like some really interesting mystery elements to this, and it yeah, it was just interesting. So I went ahead and, you know, played all the way through it, and you can get multiple different endings. So I actually, like, right after I finished it, I started a second playthrough, which was kind of like a New Game Plus, more or less. And the second playthrough only took me a couple hours, mostly just because of the fact that I didn't have to pay as much attention to every bit of dialogue, even though there were some things that were a little bit different with being the second playthrough, and so on and so forth. But I briefly started a third playthrough, but then I was just kind of like, no, I think I'm just done with it. I think I got enough out of it. I'm definitely interested in playing the second game, so I just added it to my wish list, and when it goes on sale, then I'll grab it. But I don't really want to spend $20 on it. It's not really worth it to me. I mean, the first one was a good game, and I liked it. But, you know, why spend $20 on a game that I don't really need to play right now? And I know that I got the first game for a lot cheaper, so I'll just wait. It's not going to hurt. But once again, going backwards. So after I had finished up Dark Souls 2, the first game that I ultimately settled on actually playing on the Switch 2 was Sea of Stars. Because there's the Throes of the Watchmaker DLC, which is like a story DLC. It's free, came out pretty recently. I think it was like end of April or something that it came out. And so I just went ahead and played through that. And there's definitely some things that they changed in terms of like how the combat works and everything compared with how it was in the base game. But it was, you know, a really solid DLC. I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. I did finish it, of course. I don't know exactly how many hours. I want to say it was probably around 5 hours to get through the DLC. And I didn't do like absolutely everything. Because ultimately I just didn't really feel the need. Once I completed the story, like, there wasn't really much incentive for me to do anything further, unless I just wanted to, and I didn't want to badly enough, so I just didn't. But yeah, it was good stuff. And of course I sent you the clip, but so this game of course has lots of references to other old JRPGs. I mean, there's stuff in here that's very reminiscent of obviously Chrono Trigger, but then, you know, like there's this pair of clowns that you're dealing with near, I mean throughout the DLC, and it's basically just very reminiscent of the ones from Final Fantasy IX, the twin clowns. For some reason, I'm blanking on their names. It's like I had them in my mind the other day, and now I've Zorn and Thorn. And so it's very much like Zorn and Thorn, very reminiscent of that. But the best thing of all was there's this one part where you're being chased by a train, and then at the end of the fight, one of the characters suplexes the train, just like Sabin in Final Fantasy VI. It's like, yes! And I mean, of course, the thing with Sabin, of course, was that it was optional. You didn't have to. It's just you had the suplex move. You could use it on any one you fought, including the Phantom Train. And in this case, it's like they made it a scripted thing. It's like, yes, yes, yes. And so I made sure to get it recorded. Unfortunately, I started, since when you hit the record button, it goes back the last 30 seconds. I did it before the suplex move was over, so I had two separate clips, and I had to like glue them together. And so there's like a few missing frames in there, but yeah, it's just like, I love it. I love that they did that. That just made me so happy. And yeah, there's definitely some stuff that like also reminded me of like the Lavos fight and things like that. But yeah, the train suplex thing is perfect. So perfect. And I very much appreciate that as a huge fan of Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI. Or, well, this one specifically, Final Fantasy VI. All right, so now going into some of the other stuff that I messed with. Once again, going in reverse order. So I did test out some different games on the Switch 2. The main thing is that I decided to test out Zelda Tears of the Kingdom because, of course, with if you either pay the $10 for the upgrade to the Switch 2 edition, or if you have Nintendo Switch Online subscription, you can do it. It's included with that subscription cost. And so I decided I'd check out the 60 FPS mode and, you know, the visual upgrades and everything. And I think I need to go back and try out handheld mode again. Because initially when I tried it out, it felt weird. Like, it almost felt like it was using frame generation. But then I played it docked, and it didn't feel like that at all. And so it's very possible that maybe it felt weird to me because I'd played so many hours of this game at 30 and sub 30 that the 60 just felt weird. Plus I was also, you know, rusty with the controls because I hadn't played in a long time. But when I actually played docked, at least, you know, for one, visually it looks a heck of a lot better than it did before. You know, like it took advantage of my 1440p monitor. At least it seemed like it did, assuming that it wasn't just straight up. I mean, it may have only been doing 1080p because I couldn't choose 1440p, but either way, it still looked a lot better. And of course, running at 60 makes a massive difference in how this game plays. Still a bit rusty at the controls, but I played enough to where I was able to go into like an optional boss fight against one of the three-headed dragons that's in the world, and was able to beat him after a couple tries. First time, the only reason why I lost was just I made a really stupid mistake, and I didn't quite know what I was doing. But then the second time, I took him down, and so yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, the 60 FPS is nice. If I ever get to a point that I decide to cancel my Switch Online subscription, as much as it pains me to spend the money, I probably would just go ahead and bite the bullet and pay for the upgrade, just so that way I could have that, because it really does make a huge difference in this game, being able to play at that high frame rate, or, you know, higher frame rate, what should be the bare minimum frame rate, really. But yeah, it makes a big difference, and it was a very pleasant experience from that standpoint. Now, something that was kind of mixed, more not as positive. So Xenoblade Chronicles X. Of course, there's no patch for this yet, so it's still running at 30 FPS, and it seemed like it might be a little better visually, maybe, just ever so slightly, because of the fact that it's not dealing with the weaker hardware. But it definitely is not as good as it should be. And obviously, like I said, there's no patch. It's still the Switch 1 version, 100%. The lower frame rate is, of course, disappointing. But playing with the Switch 2 Pro controller is very nice, because of the fact that I can use those back buttons for scrolling between the attacks instead of being stuck using the D-pad, which, I mean, works, but I always have disliked the fact that you can't scroll between the attacks without taking your finger off of the joystick, which means you can't move around, which means you can't position yourself properly for, you know, having optimal positioning for using different attacks. But yeah, the little bit that I played, I was just like, man, I really want to play more of this game, but I just don't want to play at this low frame rate, especially because I know that there is a 60 FPS mode somewhere in there. I just have to wait for it to come along and hope to God that Nintendo doesn't charge for it and just does it, because they've done it with enough other games to where it's like, okay, if they're not adding a bunch of content, theoretically, they should just give us this upgrade and call it good. And it seems like what Nintendo's probably doing is they're probably doing like a little bit of upgrades at a time. They're like spreading them out. Whether it's because they're just not done with all of them, or it's because the fact that they're they do the drip feed kind of thing sometimes, just to help keep people more engaged. Be like, oh, this came out and this came out and this came out, and instead of having it all at once, they do it little by little, and that draws people to come and play their games more. So yeah, that's kind of pretty much all I have to say about Xenoblade. But then we have Mario Kart World. So this one is a very interesting one. So initially I started playing this with my kids, and the biggest like boo thing is the fact that, probably because of the fact that they decided to do 24 players in a race, when you're playing split screen, it's 30 FPS. Which is just like, why? I mean, it's like, okay, yes, it's doable at 30 FPS, but I would rather have still 12 racers and 60 than have 24 racers and 30. And I'm not sure about when it comes to like what the frame rate is when you're playing single player. I know it's minimum 60. I mean, it's definitely 60. It might possibly be as high as 120, but I don't know for sure. It didn't give the option to choose different things, so I'm guessing it's probably just 60. But initially, when you go into the Grand Prix, they did this new gimmick where going from race to race, instead of it just being like a loading screen and everything, and then it loads you the race, and then you're doing the course, as normal. Instead, what they have you doing is, after you finish one race, you drive to the next one. So basically, you figure out how they connect in the world, and then part of that particular course is you getting to the course. So basically, you'll have, let's say, 3-4 laps, and of those laps, only 1 or 2 of them are on the actual course. And then the rest of the time, before that, it's just you driving to that course. And at first I thought, oh no, they're going to do this for all of them? You've got to be kidding me. I cannot believe they're doing this. This is terrible. I don't like it. I mean, it's an interesting gimmick, but I don't want this. I want to just enjoy the course, especially because there's a lot of them where basically it is old courses. They've just kind of reconfigured them to work with both having the 24 players, but also having the additional mechanics, and having well, yeah, I guess really it's just the additional racers and a couple new mechanics, like grinding rails, being able to jump on walls and that sort of thing. And, right on the walls and all that. But, yeah, so it's like there's, old courses like Moo Meadows and Choco Mountain, and I can't remember all the different ones off the top of my head, but, so initially it just seemed like, oh, you're having to drive to these courses every time, which was disappointing. But then when I actually went back and checked them out, went back to the courses after the fact, I found out, no, that's only the very first time. The first time it does that. And I think the main reason that they do that is because of the fact that they have the free roam mode. And the free roam mode, you can drive to any of these courses, and then you can ride on the courses, and then there's like a bunch of random stuff you can do in the open world. It's kind of like basically Mario Kart meets Forza Horizon. And so it's like, okay, this is kind of a cool mechanic, but yeah. Anyway, so you do have the standard races, which is good. Once after you've gone through that particular Grand Prix once, you come back to it, then every time you come back to it after that, it's just the races as you would have in any normal Mario Kart game. So I haven't tested out every single mode. There's a couple of modes. I'm not going to do any of the online stuff because I just don't care about it. But I did test out the free roam, and I gotta say it's actually way cooler than I thought it was going to be. Like I was kind of like, okay, whatever, who cares? then I actually tested it out. It's like, okay, this is actually pretty fun because there's a lot of freedom to drive around. You can, like not only can drive on the courses, but you can drive around the world. Like there will be random things that will pop up that you can do, like like chase this enemy, or like you have to go through the set of rings, and each time you go through one, then it reduces. I mean, you have like a set amount of time to get from one ring to the other and try to get to the very end. There's like one where an enemy pops up and you're supposed to catch him, but the only way you can catch him is to throw green shells at him, and he drops question mark boxes periodically that will always give you green shells, but you have to actually still hit him with the green shells, and that's not super easy because he can drive pretty much anywhere. So I don't know, it's just kind of like random stuff like that that's pretty cool. And that exploration element, like, I actually really dig it. I'm surprised at how cool that is. A mechanic that they added, which I kind of briefly mentioned earlier, but is that you can jump. So it's like, I don't particularly like the way that you do the jumps, but I like the fact that you have the option. So it's it's basically the same mechanic as drifting, except you have to just be going straight. So you hold down, you're holding down A to move forward, and then you hold down the right trigger or R, and your character will kind of like produce sparks and stuff, and then you release the trigger or R, and then they'll jump. So you can do this to like get up on walls, to drive on the walls and that sort of thing. So it's kind of hard to sometimes, at least I haven't quite gotten the hang of doing it normally, and so I haven't really been able to use it much in races, mostly because of the fact that it seems like the times where it would be the coolest, or where it'd be most effective to use, are also the times when I'm kind of needing to drift, and you can't drift and jump at the same time, so it just, yeah. But anyway, overall, I think I was pretty negative about Mario Kart World after I first played, because of what I thought, how I thought the Grand Prix worked. But once I figured out that wasn't the case, and started messing around with the free roam, and once again I haven't touched the other modes yet, then I started to think, okay, this is actually pretty cool. Would I say it's worth buying a Switch 2 for? No, definitely not. Not unless you're just like hardcore into Mario Kart. But even though I'll definitely play more, I don't in any way feel like this is something that would have driven me to buy the Switch 2 if there weren't other reasons why I chose to buy it. So I think that's basically everything I have to say on everything.
All right, so I've got a healthy or unhealthy list of questions for you about a lot of different things. And actually, I guess I'll quickly knock out the couple non-Switch related things. I guess first thing is, so are you now, with you completing Dark Souls 2, is that it for you? Or as far as, do you think you're going to take a break from Souls-likes, or are you going to jump into another Souls game, or are you going to go back to a previous entry, or what do you think you're going to do there?
Well, when I am at a point where I feel like I'm ready to take a break from playing the Switch 2, yes, I definitely will play something. Because more likely than not, I might mess around with Dark Souls 2 a little bit more, but I might just jump into the DLC for Dark Souls 3. But then I also have both Lies of P and, well, I still have the rest of Neo, which I should finish. I have Lies of P, I have another Crab's Treasure, I have Mortal Shell, which, since the sequel's been announced, I'm a little more interested in giving that another shot. So yeah, there's like a handful of different potential things, but I'm not really settled on anything. Right now, I'm just kind of like, since I have the Switch 2, I want to take advantage of having it and just spend some time working on games that have been in my backlog for a while, which is why I did the DLC for Sea of Stars, and I did Oxenfree, and now I'm working on Guacamelee 2, whether I stick with that or do go back to finish up 1 and then go to 2. There's a handful of other indie titles and that sort of thing that I'd like to play. More than anything, I'm kind of just playing smaller games to bide my time until they do the update for Xenoblade Chronicles X, because I do want to play that, but I want to make sure that I'm waiting until it's got 60 frames per second. I don't care as much about the visual aspect, I just want the higher frame rate, because it really does help a lot for a game like that. And especially knowing that it's coming, like, I cannot not wait for that. I would just be kicking myself if I spent a bunch of time playing the game, beat the game at the lower frame rate, and then then the 60 frames per second comes out, and I'm like, oh, why did I waste all that time playing it at 30 when I could have been just waited and played it at 60? So yeah, I'm just, a lot of it right now is basically backlog on the Switch, or backlog of Switch games. I'm not as likely to purchase any Switch 2 games anytime soon. I mean, I would think probably the next time I would buy one, I mean, obviously a lot of it's going to depend on release cadence, but more likely than not, it would be something along the lines of Elden Ring, if not just waiting for Metroid Prime 4. Because it's like Metroid Prime 4 I'll definitely be getting, even though I'll be getting the Switch version, and then I'll just pay the upgrade fee to get it up to Switch 2 because I want the better looking box and something that's also playable on the Switch 1. Although it's possible that the Switch 2 version will be playable on the Switch 1, because some Switch 2 games actually are playable on the Switch 1. It's just that there's, differences in terms of frame rate and capabilities and all that. But people have been showing that some Switch 2 games actually do work on the Switch 1. Obviously not all of them. I mean, Elden Ring isn't going to work on the Switch 1. But yeah, like I honestly don't know. I'm not even really... There's nothing coming to Switch 2 apart from Metroid Prime 4 that I'm like, oh, I need to get that. And the rest of them just kind of like, we'll see. I mean, Elden Ring probably, at least partially for comparison, if I still decide to do that. But also just because I'm just like morbidly curious about how it's going to run. And, see how it compares with the Steam Deck and everything. Plus, I mean, Elden Ring is great. So, I kind of want to support it, even though I know it's going to be a game key card and all that. But I might just get it digitally, actually. I don't know. I'm kind of back and forth on that.
Okay. One thing I going sort of like backtracking a bit to what you were saying, I think what it is with the Switch 2 versions of Switch 1 games is that it is actually a Switch 1 cartridge. It just has like
That's right.
I think a code or there's something in there that allows you to
right.
get
Yeah,
the Switch.
that's right. You're right.
Upgrade.
At least with the first party games.
Yeah. So that's definitely that. So with audio, you mentioned multiple about audio showing up in different areas. So is that just like random chance whether audio appears?
No,
or is that, like,
it's
preset?
it's after a certain. It's after, I believe, after you beat the I think it's after you beat the last. After you do the last primal bonfire, I believe is when audio starts showing up. Shows up at like first the last primal bonfire, and then shows up at 2 or 3 other locations. And yeah, I can't remember exactly. So I mean, like, I had already had it happen. It's just that unfortunately it happened before I had, I mean, it happened after I had already beaten, I think, at least Vendrick. Or like I think some of them happened before I beat Vendrick, and some of them happened after. I can't remember exactly how it all worked out, but either way, it didn't happen. Things didn't happen in the correct order for me to be able to do it when I wanted to, and so I had to do the New Game Plus difficulty for that set of 4 bosses.
Well, I'm definitely glad that it wasn't that the gauntlet wasn't that rough on you.
Yeah, it's funny because like when that came up, I I was like, oh no, I don't want to do that. I really don't. Especially because initially I thought, oh, the bonfire aesthetic basically makes the entire world New Game Plus. And it's like, no, it's just the enemies in the area of that bonfire. It's like, okay, that's not as
Oh,
bad.
okay.
And so it's like, okay, that's good to know from that standpoint. But it was like late. It was like 11 o'clock, maybe even 11:30, and I just decided, you know what, I'm just gonna give it a go, see how it goes, see if I can get through this. And it actually ended up not being difficult. It was pretty easy to get through. I mean, of course, I was way over leveled anyway. 160 some odd, something like that. I think my character's at least at 175 now, maybe higher. And I mean, that's not with any soul duplication or anything. I don't think there is a soul duplication for this game, but yeah, it's just like the requirements to level up are significantly lower than they are in the other Dark Souls games.
Very, very nice. So now I've got just a good number of Switch 2 questions. So earlier you
All right.
mentioned the Switch 2 being heavier than the Steam Deck. Were you referring to the Steam Deck OLED or the original one? Because the original was heavier.
OLED.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, the original was definitely heavier. And I may be wrong on that. I have to actually weigh them to be completely sure. It just, to me, it feels heavier, and that's holding them, one after another. But it might also just be because of the fact that, the Steam Deck is, it's obviously bigger, but it's also, I mean, it's more, not quite hollow is not really the right word, but because it's not as dense, because of the fact that it has the actual fan in there and everything, versus the Switch that doesn't, then the Switch feels a lot heavier. The Switch 2 feels a lot heavier.
And then I guess a couple things regarding both the USB mouse and also the Joy-Con and mouse mode. So, I mean, I know you said you only tested the one mouse, but do you think that maybe down the road, there could be some sort of update that opens up, the type of, or opens up the variety of mice you could use on the Switch 2, or do you think it's just like,
I mean, I would think
stuff is preset?
potentially, but I don't know exactly how they have it set up. I haven't really looked into it. I just briefly checked it out because there wasn't really a game I wanted to use it on anyway. I just was basically checking to see if it worked on the main screen, which it doesn't, at least with the regular mouse, whereas it does with the Joy-Con mouse. Something just quickly I want to mention: the eShop is way better on the Switch 2 than it is on the Switch 1, because the Switch 1's eShop is just, it's cluttered and it's hard to find stuff, and it's slow and everything else. The Switch 2's is way, way, way better. So much better. I mean, I've only hopped on briefly, really just to check on see if they had Oxenfree 2 on sale, which they didn't. But yeah, I checked it out and it was much better.
That's definitely good. Yeah. So do you think, I mean, I know you said that it felt more comfortable than you were expecting, but do you think you would get a peripheral for the Joy-Con to use the mouse mode, to make it feel better, or do you think you'd be fine enough just using it as it is?
I would say yes, but only when I have a game that's worth using it on, and that would probably just be Metroid Prime 4. Because I can't think of a single game that I would actually want to use a mouse on otherwise. It was like, basically it would only be shooters, and the only shooter that I'm actually like interested in playing on the Switch 2 is Metroid Prime 4, because anything else, it's gonna look and run better probably on my Steam Deck. And like, I've seen some of the comparisons that people have been doing, particularly with like Cyberpunk 2077, which is a game I haven't been interested in anyway, even playing it on PC or Steam Deck. But it looks like the visuals and performance are very similar between the two. Might be slightly better looking on Switch because Switch has DLSS, whereas the Steam Deck does not. Obviously, it just has FSR, which is garbage. But yeah.
Okay. Next question is regarding, you mentioned the battery life. So are there any type of battery settings you can use, sort of like how you can, I guess, limit the power draw on the Steam Deck, or also, I guess, does performance mode help with battery life at all, or is it?
I don't think there's any alternative modes. I mean, there's probably some things I could do, like shutting off Wi-Fi and whatnot, but I don't know. It just seemed like it ate through the battery pretty fast. I mean, like, I didn't measure specifics, but I feel like in an hour on some games, I was dropping. I mean, I think it was in Sea of Stars, actually. I think it was like an hour and I was halfway through the battery, or close to. Maybe I'm probably wrong on that. It may have just been that it felt like it was that quick. But yeah, it felt like it was quite a bit faster.
Well, I mean, I guess just thinking about it now, when I guess sort of as a follow-up question, do you think Nintendo will eventually do something like they did with the original Switch, where they had a revised version that improved the battery life, or you think it might just happen?
If they can milk their users, they're going to. They're not going to get me this time. I mean, the only thing I might consider doing, and I'm even considering not doing it, is getting an OLED whenever that version comes out. But I'm not doing the stopgap model again. I'm not. I only did it last time because of Animal Crossing, and also because I had no idea there was going to be an OLED version. But yeah, not this time. As it stands, I'm already very much in a spot where, like, I have a little bit of buyer's remorse with having bought the Switch 2. I mean, the only thing that makes me still glad I got it is just the fact that I don't have to worry about trying to share with the kids. Because, as I've said many times, the way I play games on Switch and any other handheld devices, I'll play for a little bit and I'll just put the system to sleep, and then I'll come back to the game. And having to stop and save every single time, when some games it's not as simple as you can save at any time just by doing one simple action. It's like you have to track down a save point and everything else. And then the other thing is that if I'm really wanting to play a game, I'm having to take it away from the kids. And so that's the big reason why it is that I didn't want to. I mean, why I ultimately decided to get one when I did. But do I feel like there's, I mean, as cool as the hardware is in general, and like, I don't think it was necessarily unreasonably priced, I still just, I don't feel like there's anything so like amazing about it to where it's worth the money right now. At least not for me, because I have so many games to play. But largely, I just wanted to be able to play some more of the games in my backlog, and I knew that if I didn't get my own separate device, it was going to be really hard to ever get to play it anymore. And so I figured I might as well just go ahead and make the upgrade, and then down the line we'll see what happens. I mean, of course, obviously, if they ever start putting their games on PC, then I'm done with them, period. I'm not buying any more of their hardware. But I'm already at a point where I'm very heavily in a spot that I don't think I'm going to be buying any more Switch hardware. Any more Nintendo hardware, other than, potentially a second Switch just for this, or Switch 2 just for the sake of my wife having her own for Animal Crossing when that comes around. But even that, depending on how much it costs, I may just end up being like, okay, you can just use my Switch 2. Play to your heart's content. I'll just go back to playing, at that point, probably my Steam Deck 2 and, my desktop and everything else. Because it's not like I'm ever short on games to play. Like, if I didn't have the Switch 2 right now, I would definitely still be playing stuff on the Steam Deck and on my PC. I might even jump into Bloodborne. I forgot about that when I was mentioning Souls-likes. Jump back into that, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. So a question, actually, you brought this up, and so I was very curious because I never understood the differences. So could you explain to me what the differences between Guacamelee Gold Edition and Super Turbo Edition are? Because I
Yes.
bought one, and then at some
Mhm.
point the other version was deposited into my library, and so I'm just like, okay, I don't know which one to like start playing.
Super Turbo Championship Edition has more content. The Gold Edition, I can't remember what all it has. I mean, it has more than the base version, but the Super Turbo Championship Edition adds an entire new area to the game, which includes like a new boss. And I can't remember if there was a new ability attached to that. I don't think there was. But it was mostly just that there was a completely new area with a new boss. And so, yeah, play that one. Play that version. I mean, the Gold Edition is still great because it's basically just like a... I can't remember what the difference is between the Gold Edition and the original version, but either way, you might as well just play the Super Turbo Championship Edition. Oh, yeah, that's right. The other thing the Super Turbo Championship Edition added was Intenso, which is basically just like your super mode where you're... It's like the thing that they added for the Wii version of Arkham City. You know, where you press in both sticks and then you can, beat up on guys for a little bit extra hard. So yeah, it's basically exactly the same thing, except that you can also use it with the chicken, which is fantastic. I saw someone, beat Kalaka, the final boss, as a chicken in Intenso mode, and it's like, I want to do that so badly because, yeah, it's just amazing.
Very good. Yeah, just a couple more questions I have here. So with the Mario Kart events you mentioned, are those random or are those like preset? Like
They're random.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
that's
just
pretty cool.
because you can, because like when you start up the game, it'll just have a character like whoever you were playing as last driving around the world, and then you just press plus and it goes into free roam, and then you can drive around the area they were driving around. You can keep driving through the map and end up at a completely different track. You can access any track that way and drive around the track, learn it better, all that stuff.
Okay.
Without having to worry about time or anything else.
Okay, well, I guess then that, can sort of keep things fresh instead of just like, clearing something and then having a empty map, I guess in that sense. So that's pretty neat then. And then last question I have is sort of something that you said that kind of surprised me because I thought it was something different. Do you not keep the Switch 2 upgrades if you like cancel your subscription? I thought.
Right.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, you don't keep them. It's basically just like any other subscription thing. Because you don't pay the fee for it. You're just paying for the subscription. So once you cancel the subscription, you lose that, just like you would with like, downloading games through Game Pass or through PlayStation Plus, that sort of thing. And so,
okay,
it's definitely something where I've gone back and forth on canceling my subscription because really for me, I don't need it because I don't care too much about the Switch Online games in general, since really like a lot of the ones that I would actually want to play, I already own on the original console, and bought the game digitally in the past on Wii U or 3DS or what have you, and I could just emulate it. But it's partially for my nephews, and so it's something I'll probably end up discussing with them at some point and see if they're okay with me canceling it. Because if they want to keep it and they're willing to help contribute to the cost, then I'd probably be willing to keep it. But I'd probably rather just pay for the additional content in a couple of games where it was something that came with Switch Online, which really would probably just be for I guess it would be for, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, but I probably wouldn't even bother with that. And then Tears of the Kingdom and Animal Crossing. And it would be cheaper to do those upgrades. Even if I just did Animal Crossing and Tears of the Kingdom, it would be a lot cheaper than paying for a year of Nintendo Switch Online, since I have the family plan.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification there. And that actually is the last question. So thank you for that deep dive into the Switch 2 and all its features.
All right. Cool, cool. Okay, well, obviously tonight is probably going to be a longer episode, much like last week, but we do have some games to talk about that were shown off between the Xbox Showcase and the Summer Games Fest. So let's just start going through them. Go ahead and give me the first one that stuck out to you and which show it was in.
All right. So the first thing that stuck out to me was Beast of Reincarnation, and it's definitely it at least appeared to me to be sort of like a Souls like. But one of the reasons why it really stuck out to me was because of who is working on this, and that is
Right.
Game Freak. And I also, yeah, I mean, this isn't necessarily the first time it's happened because I know that there was one other game, I can't remember what it was, that's, popped up on as a multi-plat game, but having a Game Freak title on Xbox was just very, I was like, huh, that's interesting. You don't see that every day. I really wish I could remember what that game was. It was a smaller, like 2D title that was published on.
Was it Tenbo the BA Elephant?
I
Because I think that was one of them. Well, there's that one, and there was one other one that was on the Switch pretty early
was
on.
I almost feel like it was it was a sprite. It was kind of like, man, because like I know I own it in my library. I just can't remember like what it's called, which is why it's annoying me so much because
There was like the Pocket Card Jockey was another one that was like 3DS or something. But
I don't know. It was like it was a 2D. Oh wait, let me see if I can quickly pull it up here. I think it was. Wait, this wasn't them, was it? Never mind. It wasn't them. I thought it was called Aegis Defenders, but no, that wasn't them. So never mind. I don't remember what the game was, but they made some game and I can't remember. But it was just interesting seeing a game here, that that was completely different, and also a game that just isn't Pokemon, which is
Right.
also just interesting to see something different here. But it seemed interesting enough to me that I thought, yeah, this is noteworthy. Now I'm not certain. I don't think it'll definitely be a game I get day one, but something that I might keep my eyes on down the road or something.
Yeah, with Game Freak, like I'm thinking probably the reason why the Pokemon games look as bad as they do and everything is because it's not because the Pokemon company is so heavily involved, and that they're more the reason why those games look so bad. Because looking at this game, like, this game is visually impressive. It is a beautiful looking game. Very, it's got realistic visuals, and it's like visually just has a really great style. You have a female protagonist, but she looks like an actual female. And I mean, it's just like the game looks really good. And of course, assuming it is Souls-like, even if it's not a Souls-like, I'm also very interested in it. I also like the fact that it's like, yes, it's a beautiful looking female, but she's not like sexualized in any way. So that makes it a lot easier to just not have that be distracting to me personally, because that's something that I try to avoid, which is the major reason why I will not play Stellar Blade, even though it just came out on PC. It's like, I'm not going to play it because it's just way too sexualized, and it's something that I can't in good conscience play because of how it affects me as a red-blooded male who likes how women look and everything. That's the clean way of saying it. But yeah, no, this game looks really cool. I agree with you.
Oh,
I have, or go
sorry.
ahead.
I just want to quickly mention I finally remember what the game was called. It's called a Giga Record. That was the game that I was
Oh,
thinking
okay, I
about.
haven't heard of that one. Okay, cool. All right. Well, of course, earlier I was talking about Guacamelee and Guacamelee 2, but from the same developer, there's this game called Blighted, that is coming to, I think, basically all platforms, as far as I can tell. It's a 2D, looks like it's basically very much a Hades type of game, but also a Metroidvania. And Drinkbox, of course, the developer, Guacamelee 2 are fantastic. I've heard great things about Nobody Saves the World. I have it. I just haven't played it yet. Um, part of the reason why I was motivated to jump back into Guacamelee was because of this game coming out. But yeah, it looks really cool. I mean, of course, it has the great art style. Looks like it's very Hades like, and then at the same time is confirmed to be a Metroidvania. So you have all these things that I like all packed together. There's no confirmation of it being any sort of Souls-like, so I don't think it is, but I think it's basically just the roguelike kind of thing with the Metroidvania aspect added as well. So, very cool. The preview only showed it as wishlist on Steam, so I'm assuming it will at least at some point be on all platforms, even if it's not there initially. But either way, we get it on Steam, and that's what really matters for us as PC gamers.
Indeed. But yeah, that definitely looks good.
All right, give me your next game.
All right, so next game, which was quite a surprise to me, and you mentioned this earlier, was Mortal Shell. And I mean, I have not played this game yet. I mean, I've got it on GOG and I've got it on Steam, but I just have not gotten around to starting it, and due to the ever expanding backlog. But I'm definitely glad that this is coming out. Especially for people who played the first one and enjoyed it, and I'm very happy that this time around the devs are not messing with PC players by having it launch as a Epic Games exclusive. That's something that they did with the first game, and a lot of people are not happy about it. And they were expressing their disgust over it and saying, no, we will not buy the game until you put it on Steam. And it seems like this time the devs learned their lesson, because at least as of now, it is on Steam, or at least the Steam page. So, and it does also say coming out in 2026. So no exclusivity this time around. So definitely glad for that. And if I eventually get around to playing the first game and enjoy it, I will be getting this one as well.
Yeah, so full disclosure, I didn't even watch Summer Game Fest, mostly because it was happening on Friday and I was doing stuff with my kids the whole day, so I didn't watch it. And of course, half the time the announcements there end up being like, you watch 4 hours of footage and there's like 3 or 4 things that are worth watching, and the rest of them just like meh. like with the video game awards, or with the game awards last couple of years. But yeah, I'm interested. I need to actually get into Mortal Shell, which I sort of started to kind of get into it the last time I was trying it out, but of course I was in the middle of other Souls-likes. I think last time I was trying that, I might have still been playing Dark Souls 3, maybe. And so one of these days I'll jump back into the original Mortal Shell and give it a real go. Just the mechanics are very different in terms of using the shells and all that. It's just kind of weird. So it's one of those that is on the list of trying at some point, because I do want to give it a fair go, especially because I think I paid like $3 for it on GOG. So might as well try it. And yeah, go from there. All right, next game I want to talk about is Clockwork Revolution. Now, I'm pretty sure this is not the first time we've seen this game, that it's been shown at least one other time, because I vaguely remember seeing some footage, and I feel like, or at least I remember the title, and I feel like I at the very least there was some like cinematic and slight gameplay trailers before, but this time it was like more of a a lot more gameplay to the trailer, and it very much gives me BioShock Infinite vibes. Like, it is so heavily reminds me of BioShock Infinite. And of course, I mean, I love BioShock anyway, but BioShock Infinite also was amazing. And yeah, this game looks really good. I think pretty sure it's not coming out till sometime next year. Actually, I don't even think they have a release window or anything for it. But yeah, you got like steampunk things set in the late 19th century, and like powers and crazy guns and just all sorts of stuff that it really just looks great. I'm very interested in it. I'll be keeping my eyes peeled on it. It is on my wish list. Oh, and briefly, I just want to mention, because I got this wrong last week. Last week, I thought that Romeo's a Dead Man and Pragmata were both PlayStation exclusive games, and they were not. Pragmata just hadn't been listed yet on Steam. Romeo's a Dead Man, at least last I checked, is still not listed on Steam, but it was confirmed as coming to Steam. So, the only PlayStation exclusives from last week were, of course, Ghost of Yotei, and then the DLC for Astrobot, both of which will eventually come to PC anyway. But yeah.
Now, question, considering the fact that this, as you said, gives you a lot of BioShock vibes, because I don't think we have a release date for this game yet. Yeah, we don't have a release date, so which game do you think you would want to play first? Clockwork Revolution or Judas?
I guess probably whichever comes out first. I think I'd say probably Judas would be my first choice, just because Ken Levine has not disappointed me so far with the games he's made. But I mean, I want to play both, so it's really just a matter of which one comes out first, most likely, and where I am with other games and the price, because I'm not spending $80 on a game. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. At least not for a base version of a game.
Well, I mean, I feel like hopefully this game will be like a $60 game. That's what I'm hoping. But
it'd be nice. I'd be okay with 60.
Because I mean, obviously, a $60 game would mean $50 on Green Man Gaming.
Exactly. Exactly. Or $48 most likely.
But yes, that definitely sounds good.
All right, what's your next game?
All right, so next game is going to be is another game that sort of surprised me and is also a sequel, and that is Code Vein 2. I played through most of the first game, and I got up until the final area to finish, but for the most part, while it's different, while there are some mechanical differences from Souls-likes or most Souls games, it's definitely satisfying to play. I do feel like you almost, unlike with your typical Souls game, you almost kind of need to have an NPC following you around, just because it helps with split aggro and helping you with times where you can be downed in case you need a revival. As far as the story goes, I'm not entirely certain where they will want to take things, because of the fact that, well, there's some spoiler stuff, but the game kind of connects into another series that Bandai makes, and because of that, it's like, does that mean they're going to try to lean more into that other series now because it's connected here, or are they still just going to keep it separate and just tease that it's connected with the other game series, which I think is interesting, because the other game series plays completely different than this one. But yeah, it's definitely interesting to see that they decided to make a sequel all these years later. But yeah, that's really all I have for right now.
Yeah, I mean, the gameplay, what we saw looked really cool. But ultimately, the major reason I'm not as interested in this is the same reason that I stopped playing the first Code Vein, and that's really just because of the sexualized stuff. It's a problem for me in terms of my Christian walk, and I just can't do it myself. I'm not looking down on anyone who is not bothered by it in the same way, but I just know for me that it's something I have to stay away from. So there was just a bit too much of that in the first game, and I had to stop playing. So I'm not going to be playing this one for the same reason. I mean, unless, well, I should say, if they get rid of the sexualized stuff, like the fact that the one female character they showed in this didn't have that going on, then I would probably be interested in checking it out. But if it's the same as the first game, where it's just, what it was, then I'm not touching it. So.
Fair enough.
All right. So this next one, well, actually, I guess I'll go into kind of some of the minor ones that are not entirely relevant to me personally, but at the same time, I just thought I was just really happy about to see. So I'm going to combine these two. Final Fantasy VII Remake has finally been confirmed as coming to Xbox in 2025, just like the rumors had suggested. Not overly surprising, but I'm still really glad to see it finally happening. And along with that, Final Fantasy 16 shadow dropped during the Xbox showcase. So I'm really happy for Xbox fans, to finally be able to play these games. Obviously, Remake I loved on PC. 16 I have not played yet, and I don't plan to play that until at least after I get through 15, since I still have 15 and haven't played it really much at all. But I wouldn't be playing them on Xbox anyway, so I just think it's good that these games are coming to Xbox, or in the case of 16 is already there. And it's also kind of funny to me that with as much as PlayStation fanboys bragged about Final Fantasy being exclusive to PlayStation, right now, at least once Remake and Rebirth are on Xbox will have access to more Final Fantasy games than PlayStation on their current console, because of Final Fantasy 13. Because those games are PS3 games, PS3 and 360, so they're backwards compatible on the Xbox Series X, but not on the PS5. And I just think that's funny. I mean, I think people should play them wherever they want. Like, I totally understand people wanting to play them on PlayStation. I mean, for me, many years, like, Final Fantasy was one of the major reasons I bought PlayStation before I got introduced to the actual first-party franchises that I really liked. But yeah, I think it's funny, and it's the direction that everything's moving. I'm glad that it's moving in that direction because it's beneficial to everyone. Everyone gets to choose where they want to play these games instead of being forced to buy a specific plastic box to play them. So I'm happy about that. I think it is wonderful, and it benefits us as consumers. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I did not know about that. I was going to say, what are you talking about? The game should be equal, if not more so, because of the Repixel collection. I was say it should be the same, but then you said 13. I was like, that makes a whole lot of sense, actually. So it is funny how, PlayStation had more games on Xbox originally. Now Xbox has most, if not nearly all, the games on their console. Well, except for maybe 11, but most people probably don't talk about that one much.
But
anyway.
I mean, 11 isn't playable on PS5 anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
That's true.
So I'm just talking about current gen consoles, not in general. Because if we were counting in general, then it would be different. But just counting just as far as the current gen consoles go, it's probably almost tied. It's not exactly tied because PlayStation still has Remake and Rebirth, which are not yet on Xbox, and was the other one. But then you have Xbox has the 13 trilogy that's playable, whereas PlayStation can't because they're PS3 games.
And I guess how long do you think it'll be until Rebirth hits Xbox? And also,
It'll be next year.
do you-
I mean, that was the rumor anyway, and I don't have any reason to think otherwise. It'll be out next year for sure.
and do you think it'll also hit Switch at the same time?
Maybe. I would think so, but it kind of just depends on how much they decide to delay it, because you are dealing with definitely weaker hardware with the Switch 2. Regardless of what Nintendo fanboys are trying to convince themselves of, it's still going to be weaker than the PS5. I'm sorry. That's just how technology works, buddy.
But the Rebirth was also on the PS4, correct?
No.
Oh, yeah, never mind. Yeah, I take never mind that. Never mind. Yep. We'll just have to see in that case.
No, Remake itself was on PS4, but even like the DLC, the intermission DLC for Remake was not on PS4. It only was on PS5.
Okay.
And, well, obviously now it's on PC and will be on Xbox sometime this year. Well, Xbox and Switch 2. I mean, I don't think there's any reason it shouldn't have been on PS4, because obviously it was just... my guess is it was probably more like it might have been Square Enix was keeping it from coming to PS4 because they wanted people to buy... they wanted people to just upgrade. But there's no reason it couldn't run on the PS4. I mean, I could run Intermission on the Steam Deck, and it ran just as well as the base Remake ran. So yeah, there's no reason why it couldn't run on PS4. Anyway, give me your next game.
All right. So next game is one that just stood out to me because it seemed interesting enough. Is The Blood of Dawnwalker, and this is a game that you're playing, in medieval Europe, and you're someone who is bitten by a vampire, and you're turned to a vampire, and so now you're sort of like going back and forth between these two worlds as like a human and also as a vampire. It seemed interesting, and also, I mean, it's not by Bandai Namco, but it's one of their produced games, so it's interesting when they have these other types of games, sort of like how they helped publish the oh gosh, I can't remember what it's called, but wow, what is it with me not remembering the titles of games these days? But some other smaller game. So it's interesting when I like seeing some of the games that they help publish that I find interesting enough, and this one seemed interesting enough as just another type of RPG to try. So I was like, I'll keep that on my radar. It might not be a day one type of purchase, but it's interesting enough that I'll at least consider sometime down the road.
Yeah, looking at this one, it reminded me a lot of the infamous 2 DLC Festival of Blood, and I mean, it kind of looks like it's almost like a cross between that and, I mean, I don't know if it's just a regular action game or if it's actually a Souls-like. I don't think it's a Souls-like, but like I don't know. I'd have to look actually and see if the classification, if it clarifies on that front. But I mean, what I've seen, it looks great. I'm very interested in it, so I'll definitely be keeping my eyes on it for sure.
Sure.
All right. Well, let's see here. I know that there's one that we both wanted to talk about, one of the bigger ones. But first, I'll bring up the one that stood out to me a bit. That is Super Meat Boy 3D. So, I have not played any of the Super Meat Boy games. I do have the first one because my friend got it for me, but I've just never tried it. Looking at this, I'm kind of like, I think I might need to give this series a shot after all, because I do enjoy the punishing platformers. Like, especially like the stuff in Guacamelee, some of the puzzles are, I mean, some of the jumping puzzles are just insane. And of course, I know that that's like the bread and butter of Super Meat Boy. So I may at some point check out the first game and then see if I'm interested. But I mean, the Super Meat Boy 3D looks great. And if I end up enjoying the first one, then I'll probably end up checking this one out. So, yeah.
Yeah. I would be interested in the game, but I feel like the problem is I mean, granted, I've played Souls games before, but at the same time, I'm just like, I don't know how this will feel because I know how punishing the 2D games are, and it's like I feel part of it is, even though this happened way later, it's just after seeing the crazy things that people have done in like Super Mario Maker, and it's like, what are these people doing that they get, like, all this stuff you have to do to get around these courses and stuff. And then, of course, like I said, that happened way later, but whoops, my light just died out here. Just quickly fix that. Oops. There we go. All right. But I don't know. I just don't know if I would be good enough at doing, if I would be good at reacting whenever I need to for dodging. I mean, sure, I've played maybe a couple games that have done something like that, but I just don't think I'm skilled enough to master that type of platforming needed. So that's the only reason why I have not touched the any of the games before. And I'm not certain if having it be in 3D would make things even more difficult. I mean, maybe it might, in a sense, make it easier, but I just don't. Having that third, that third dimension, I don't know. But it's definitely interesting. I'll definitely say that. I never would have thought of them trying to do something like that. But hey, it's gonna be fresh and new.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I have to try the first one, and if I can get into the first one, then I'll be interested in checking this out for sure. I think it looks great regardless. I just don't know for sure if it will be something that I personally will enjoy. I just know that, like, I think of the really difficult platforming sections in Guacamelee and how much I ultimately enjoyed those despite how difficult they were. I mean, like, it's to the point where every time I've, gone back to Guacamelee, and even though I've only finished it a few times, I've gone through the majority of the game multiple times. Because I also played through the majority of the game on PS4, because I got it as a PlayStation Plus game when I still had that. And it's just like the platforming sections, I always feel like are way easier overall for me than doing the combat stuff, because the combat stuff, like, I always end up getting hit, I get my combos broken, etc. Whereas with the platforming, I feel like if I just keep trying at it, I can usually get it eventually, even if it takes me 100 tries or something. And so, a lot of times, I don't know, it's just I find those platforming things really satisfying when I can actually pull them off. And of course, now after playing multiple Souls games, I kind of feel like I've become a little more of a glutton for punishment on that from that standpoint. And and then playing Expedition 33 on Expert and so on and so forth. So I'll at least keep my eyes on it and see how things go with the first game. If I like the first game, then I will probably end up checking out this one. But if I don't, if I find that it's just too hard and that I just can't do it, then I will rescind that. All right. So I think there's only one game that both of us have on our list, but you want to go ahead and give your thoughts on it before I give mine?
Yeah, and that game is Persona 4 Revival. And we've definitely talked about this game several times throughout this year. And in fact, earlier this week we had a Discord talking about, a potential rumor that was going to be announced this weekend, and lo and behold, it was shown off. It was just a teaser that was shown, and they didn't really show too much of the game, and I don't even think we have any type of window as far as when it's going to be released. Yeah. But it definitely looks good. It looks like they're giving the same amount of care that they've given Persona 3 Reload, from what I can tell. And yeah, it definitely looks good and interesting. And, it definitely makes me think, well, yeah, I'm glad I haven't started Golden, so that way I can just go ahead and play that whenever it releases. Now, I think that more than likely it won't be something that I pick up day one, just because, in the similar vein with what they did with Reload, it's going to be $70. Unless they decide, hey, everyone else is getting on the $80 bandwagon, we might as well jump on. But I don't think they're going to do it. So I hope not. But, it's most likely going to be $70, so it's going to be something that I get a little while later on once it's, a little discounted and whatnot. But it definitely looks good, definitely looks interesting, and it's great that we can finally put this rumor to rest because it is now official. And yeah, I'm definitely pleased at this. So yeah, what are your thoughts, Mr. I've played Persona 4 here, there, and everywhere?
Yeah, I basically have, well, except for on PS2. So of course, I mean, like as it's doing like the first couple images, I'm starting to think I think this might be Persona 4, and then I mean, it's like the very first image. I mean, once they showed the shrine, I was like pretty sure that it was, and then of course they showed the TVs, and then they're like, yep, obviously this is Persona 4, and seeing the classroom, and then seeing Inaba and everything like that, and it's just like, okay, well, it's very I mean, like it was clear, and of course the music kicked in and everything, the main theme, and so yeah, the one thing I don't like about this is that, for one, it was way too short of a teaser. Two, it's very clear that it's very early in terms of production. I mean, they said that this is all just early development content. It's subject to change, and of course, like looking at the character model that they had for the main character, it was pretty obvious that it's still what needs some work. Not that it looked bad, it just, it didn't look nearly as polished as Persona 3 Reload from that standpoint. I mean, the world itself looked really polished and looked really good, but the character model, I felt like, definitely was not as polished, and of course, obviously there was no NPCs in the environment or anything. And usually, even though there's not typically a lot of NPCs in this area, there are a handful, and the fact that there was absolutely none just tells me, yeah, this was very much a very brief tech demo showing off a couple things. That being said, of course, I'm obviously very interested. There's no release window whatsoever. I would guess at the earliest we'll see it late 2026 that it comes out, just because we've seen basically nothing of the footage. I mean, it's like it's like a couple of spots around the town, and then one small section for downtown Inaba, and that's it. And well, I guess they showed the shrine as well, but still, it's like, okay, I'm sorry, the shrine and the classroom. So they just haven't shown much of anything. There's a lot more to the game, and yeah. So we'll just wait and see. I know, I mean, obviously I'm glad that it has been officially confirmed. It will more likely than not be a day one purchase for me, unless it's $80, and even then I might still do it, just because I'd be doing it through Green Man Gaming, so I wouldn't be spending $80 on it. But yeah, that is pretty much all I have to say on it. There's not enough there for me to say more.
Understood.
All right. So of course we've talked about stuff that was shown at the showcase and Summer Game Fest in general, but one thing that was officially revealed was the Xbox Ally handheld. So of course we had seen the leaked images a while ago. Thankfully, it looks a lot cleaner and nicer. The final, that when it's not, like an off-screen picture taken and everything. But yeah, so the short version of what this handheld is, just as we thought and understood it to be, is that it is in fact a Xbox branded themed PC handheld. It is running Windows 11, but it is like a very consoleized version of it, to where it hides a lot of the stuff in the background. They've confirmed that it has access to all the different PC stores, including Steam and GOG and Battle.net, and can run a variety of different apps. They also confirmed with that Hollow Knight Silksong is a day one launch on this handheld. But they haven't, of course, given a release date. They just said that it's coming out holiday 2025, and there's no price attached to it, which tells me it's probably going to be very expensive. Some are theorizing that it could be around $900 to $1,000. But it's supposed to do a lot, and it's supposed to basically play all the Xbox games while also having access to PC stores, and doing it without as much of the it looks less like a PC. Like, basically it's Windows version of SteamOS, more or less, or Windows version of game mode is what it kind of looks like. So yeah, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, definitely good to get some confirmation. And of course, this still isn't Microsoft's dedicated handheld. Naturally, this is just their branded handheld with Asus. And, I agree, it definitely looks good. And I do like the fact that this is sort of, while they did say you can try to get, the full desktop Windows running. I can't remember if you have to configure something or whatever, but I do like the fact that at least they have that game mode set up, so that way it's easier to use rather than just starting up your handheld like other Windows-based versions where you start up and then you have to go into whatever program you want, or whether it's Steam or Windows Store or Epic Games or whatever to get into your games. You just turn it on and you have that menu right there, sort of like with SteamOS. So that's great. And I also appreciate the fact that it is still a PC handheld, so you can treat it as such. You're not just locked into one thing. You can go ahead and say, yeah, I want to do this. I want to go on the internet. I want to do this. If you're feeling very zesty, say, hey, I want to file my taxes on this thing. You can do it because it is, at the end of the day, a PC. So that's awesome. And of course, even though it's technically a PC, it's got that Xbox branding, so that means you can play your PS games on your Xbox handheld.
Yep. And it's already been confirmed that it does work, or at least, from testing. I know Destin Legary, over on his YouTube channel, tested it out. Tested out Spider-Man Miles Morales, and it worked.
Yep. All those PS branded games right there on your Xbox handheld. And I also, I think it's great that we have more confirmation that Silksong is coming out. I know that a lot of people have been asking about that. I know it's something that people have been asking for years about. Now, personally, I still have not started Hollow Knight, so I am not at that point where I would say, where's Silksong at? But at least now I know that by the time I eventually start Hollow Knight, by the time I finish it, Silksong should already be out. I'll just put it like that. It should already be out, and I should be able to get it and play it at that point. But I definitely agree that the price of the models is definitely going to be up there. I mean, I feel like it's going to be at the bare minimum $100 more than a standard Ally. Even the more recent Allies, it's going to be at least $100 more, maybe $200 more, just because of the branding. But one thing I'm also curious about is if, eventually down the road, the version of Windows that's set up on the Xbox Ally is going to be available for other handhelds as well, not just with the Ally, but say like the Lenovo Legion, on the for some reason I can only think of the Legion, the Ally, and that's pretty much it. But as far as just the other PC handhelds. I wonder if it's gonna be available
Mhm.
for those as well. So that way, they'll eventually release their versions where it comes included. Because I think it really makes the most sense. I mean, you are still just running Windows anyway, so you might as well just put on the more streamlined version, especially if you want to offer the same experience that the Steam Deck offers. I think it's only smart to do it that way rather than just have a default just Windows 11 setup. And I would also assume that it's also, even though it's still Windows 11, it's probably a little less bloated than standard Windows 11 as well. So
Yeah.
I would think it's best, or at least best if they want to start countering what Valve has done with the Steam OS to go ahead and put that on other devices as well. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. Now, I won't personally be getting this just because it's gonna be way more than I want to pay, and also if I got it anyway, I'm not using the Windows Store. I mean, you can use Steam, but I would most likely anyway just go ahead and just install Steam OS anyway. So at that point, I might as well just wait for a cheaper Steam Deck too. So
Right.
I'll be passing on this one.
Yeah, likewise, I definitely will not be getting this. I do say, though, I think it looks really good, and if the Steam Deck didn't exist, I would probably want one. Just because, like, it does look really great, and even though I don't care about the Xbox side of things, I mean, I do think, like, it looks like a really nice handheld, and it looks like, as you said, that basically Microsoft is trying to more or less compete with SteamOS, but at the same time, still offer people the option of using Steam. And I just think that it is a very pro-consumer thing that they're doing with this, even though, of course, it's probably going to be very expensive to compensate for that. And I don't know, it looks great. I think it looks like a really cool handheld, and the things that they've been saying about how it's going to work, and the optimizations that they're doing for Windows to make this work properly with a handheld instead of feeling like Windows, I think is really great. So I'm glad to see it, and I am just very curious to see if Sony will in any way try to block people from playing PlayStation games on here. I don't think they're going to, mostly because I'm not sure how easily they could actually do that, since it is a PC basically. But I guess we'll just wait and see. I do know, though, like, I've heard lots of PlayStation fanboys especially, like, saying, oh, well, PlayStation can absolutely block people from playing games on this thing. And when that doesn't happen, because it probably won't happen, then they will start moving the goalposts and be like, well, but it's not actually an Xbox, even though, of course, as the ad says, this is an Xbox. And yeah, I enjoy the salt, and I don't know. I just think this is a move in the correct direction for Xbox, apart from the price that's obviously going to be ridiculous, but it's intended to be a premium product, and I understand why it will be as expensive as it is, even though it is not a price I would pay unless they somehow decide to take a significant loss on this just to sell more hardware. But I don't know if they're necessarily going to do that. I don't think they will. So, yep, that's everything I got to say on that front.
Same here.
All right, as far as I can tell, I think we got through all the games that we had on our list. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, nothing else from me.
All right, well, let's get into our recommendations and dissuasions. So go ahead and start us off.
All right. So 2 recommendations from me. First one is just, and of course, this is something we've both recommended before, but just play Expedition 33. It is a phenomenal game, and I mean, it's a roller coaster ride, but it's just a fun ride, and you enjoy every step of the way. And so far, similar to what you've said, it's my game of the year, and I really don't think anything else is really going to contend with it for me so far. So play this game. It's an excellent RPG. It's got a lot of great mechanics and a great story, phenomenal music. So just play this game. And then my second recommendation is going to be Paralandra. I recommended Out of the Silent Planet before. It's a great sci-fi story. This one's also good. It's different in as far as how things are handled, but I think it's definitely good as well. I will only say that do not listen to C.S. Lewis and go ahead and read this one. I would definitely say it really helps if you read the first book before reading this book. So yeah, that's everything I have.
All right, good stuff. All right, well, first of all, I do have some recommendations related to Dark Souls 2. First of all, if you want to actually, if you have the Scholar of the First Sin version, and you actually want to be able to play, you want to be able to fight Aldia, Scholar of the First Sin, make sure you look up the full process of the full steps of what you need to do before you do that, so that you don't have to use a bonfire ascetic in order to get him to show up. So that is my recommendation on that front. Also, I recommend that you, in Dark Souls 2, that you get the King's Crown from the Shrine of Amana, as it prevents hollowing and protects against curse as well. So that can make it so you don't have to deal with using human effigies or anything else. You can just wear the crown, and even though it kind of eliminates the fashion souls side of things, it does prevent hollowing. So it's worth it from that standpoint, if nothing else. Then I also want to recommend Aaron and Claire's beef and broccoli recipe. It's super good. Really, any of their recipes, I haven't found anything that they've made that isn't good, but that one especially, just like, it's peak. And that's the first time I've ever made beef and broccoli from a recipe, at least, because I made it before on my own, and it was like okay, but it wasn't great. And this was great. It was really great recipe. So yeah, use that recipe. You can find them both on YouTube, and there's also just a website that they have, aaronandclaire.com. All right, dissuasions.
All right, my dissuasion is going to sort of jump off of some of my dissuasion from last week, and it's going to be, do not buy the RX 9060 XT for more than $380. Now, I'm not saying this just because of the fact that, of course, I haven't seen it sold out completely, so I think it's still possible, last time I checked, to get it at MSRP. But I'm not even talking about scalpers, but actual units that are being sold that are about $480, which is more than $100 over MSRP. And this is from like Asus, and I think one other manufacturer who are selling these cards at such higher prices. And even if you want to say, I want to get a card that has better overclocking or has better cooling, you shouldn't pay more than $30 for the card, because at that point you might as well just be getting a higher card, like maybe like a used 4070 or a 6800 XT, something like that. So like, don't spend more than $380, because otherwise you're missing the point of buying a budget-based card at that point. But yeah, that's my dissuasion.
All right. Well, my dissuasion is that if you are considering buying a Switch 2 for Mario Kart World, do not buy it for just that game. I'm not saying that you shouldn't buy one, period, but if the only reason you're getting it is because of the new Mario Kart, it's not worth it for that. I guess, if you have like a bunch of extra money lying around and you just know you're going to play like endless amounts of Mario Kart, then maybe, but in general, I just don't think it's worth it for that. Now, if you didn't buy a Switch 1, I think a Switch 2 would definitely be worth it, because the fact that you do have all of those Switch 1 games. There's a huge library, lots and lots of great games, but I wouldn't buy it for just that one Nintendo game. It's not worth it in my opinion. So that's all I got. All right, where can people find you?
They can find me on my channel. I am Xeracon. That's IAMXERACON. So youtube.com/@IamXeracon. No content previously, but I'm thinking about unboxing my 9060 XT and also doing a slight comparison with some games just to see if, for people who, have older budget cards, how well this will compare if they wanted to upgrade to it. So I might do a comparison with some games some more demanding games to see how those games run. But it'll depend. It'll definitely be something that comes out later, since getting ready for the weekend and also with some Father's Day stuff. But we'll see.
All right, cool. Well, you can find me on my YouTube gaming channel at FrozenGamer87. Currently, nothing new has been put up in quite a while, and I'm not really sure when the next time something's going to go up. I would say the most likely next thing that will be up will be the next Dads and Gaming interview, which still working on getting that scheduled. Just need to follow up again on that. But hopefully it'll be sooner rather than later, and hopefully within the next few weeks or so we'll have that up. It's going to partially depend on when he's available to do the interview, but also it's going to depend on whether or not I can do it before I head out of town to go to my in-laws, because their internet's not great, and unless we drive up to like the community college and use the internet there, uploading at my in-laws house would be a nightmare because their internet's very, very slow. So we'll have to wait and see. I have lots of ideas in my head. It's just a matter of taking the time to make some notes and then just doing them. And I haven't gotten around to it. And of course I have to figure out some things with more than just very basic editing with DaVinci Resolve Studio. And so there's just a variety of factors here, but ultimately it's more than anything. I just haven't been motivated to do it. So been focused on other things instead. One thing I did forget to mention earlier, and I'll just briefly mention, did make some more good progress on the garage over the weekend. So I'm at like 50% done with everything. It's looking a lot better. I think the big thing right now is really just going to be going through and starting to get stuff sorted and ready for eventually doing a garage sale between the stuff in the garage and just stuff in the house. So anyway, but going back to where else you can find me, of course, we have our YouTube channel for the podcast at the Orange Box Podcast. You can also find the podcast on Rumble, which is not a custom URL, but it is on Rumble as well. And the video version of the podcast goes live every Friday at 7 a.m. Central Time, barring any technical issues. And there you can see not only our beautiful faces, but see clips from the games we've been playing, as well as games we've been talking about, such as with the Xbox Showcase that we just discussed a bunch of games, as well as the few games we discussed from Summer Game Fest. And then you can also find the audio-only version of the podcast on all major podcast platforms, including YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and other places. Basically, any major podcast platform. It goes live 12 a.m. Central Time every Friday, barring any technical issues. And I guess then there's also my YouTube cooking channel, which is Not Authentic But Delicious. That's YouTube at NABD Cooking. And there I have not put any recipes out for a while. I don't know when I'm going to record my next one. But, there's about 30 some odd, somewhere between 30 and 40 recipes on there that you can check out. Lots of really good stuff. And there will be more in the future. I just don't know when. So that is everything, I believe. So, last chance. Any final thoughts?
No, sir.
All right. Well, I am the Frozen Gamer 87. That is I am Zeracon. We are the Orange Box Podcast. And until next time, play games wherever you want to play them, and don't let fanboys tell you you're wrong for playing them there. Orange Box Podcast, out.